Speaker is Senator Moran.
Thank you. I too would like to thank the Carers Association, DFI and Social Protection to come in. I welcome this meeting. I think it's a great opportunity for us, and I must say, speaking here, it's great to see that my colleagues are obviously going through the same thing that we're all going through, and I would like to back up absolutely everything that you've said. I think people with a disability have enough obstacles to face in assessing everything from housing, social welfare, medical cards, resources, education, therapies, and I think a lot of these forms just present a further worry and obstacles. I think Catherine made a very valid point there from the Carers Association that there needs to be clear communication between the applicant regarding what's needed to make the most complete application as far as possible for the department. And it's something that I would find very often, that people actually come to me and say, I actually applied for it, I waited until I was refused to come back to you, and I'll say, well, what did you send off? What did you put in? And again, I filled in the form and I filled in all the questions that I was asked. And then you see here where they go, if you submit the extra reports. But if people aren't specifically told to put in those extra consultants' reports or the GP reports, whatever, a lot of them say, well, I'll just hold, as we've said, hold back the information until it's further requested, and then try it. And I think it's been hammered home today, the amount of DA applications that have been refused, and as I said, over half of them, or almost half of the disability allowances applications in 2014, of 27,608 disability allowance eligibility decisions, 13,732 were turned down on the basis of qualifying criteria on initial assessment, which is huge. So I too would question that. As I said, clearer communication definitely is essential, and much of the confusion could be done away with if information regarding additional documentation was made available. I think DFI raised a valid concern regarding the domiciliary care allowance, and I've actually seen the transition from DCA to disability allowance resulting in, I know one parent last year who actually lost her carer's allowance, a payment that they'd had from birth of their child, and I find it particularly confusing. It's confusing for everybody, particularly when their child's situation hadn't changed from the last day of their being 15 to the first day of them being 16, and I think that's another huge issue that you find when people are applying for a disability allowance, that where they qualified for domiciliary allowance and there was no problem once they turned 16, there seems to be a huge other obstacle of people then trying to qualify for the disability allowance. So I think that's something. One thing that I would like to propose, and I take up the point that Social Protection say that they do engage with different departments and groups. I would actually propose that you would also visit the special schools, and I would have personal experience of this, where a lot of parents of children in special schools, their child reaches 16 and it's through word of mouth, or maybe through a remark in class where they realise, yeah, I can apply for that. I've actually been amazed at the amount of queries that I've had in the last 2 years, with people who weren't aware even of what they're entitled. And I know you say, right, their information is on websites and the information is out there and it's in citizens' information, but we are talking about a cohort of people here who, are perhaps tending to their family member 24 hours a day, and kind of having the time, maybe the opportunity to kind of sit and source information and source everything. So I just think that a very efficient way of getting the point across would actually to be, to have an information for parents of children, particularly in special schools or in special classes within mainstream schools, where we know that that these people will be entitled to disability allowance, to give them the opportunities to go through. when you, just if I just could briefly just ask a question as well from DSP, when you say there that you engage regularly with the GPs, what kind of communication? Is this communication by letter, or is this actually having formal information evenings for GPs? Because I do think, and Deputy Snuddig raised a very, very valid point, I think something that we'd all experience, where the delay in getting the reports, or even sometimes people will say to me, I can't get that report because the GP is looking for €15 for the report, and I can't pay that until I get my money at the end of the week. And that is, to me, is horrific. It's absolutely horrific that people are put through this and made to jump through all of these hoops. So I'll maybe come back in later. Thank you.